It's way past time I dispense some indiscriminate justice!
G'day guys, Duckville here. We're going to have a continuation of the 4v4 mini guide series. Of course, I have been doing a couple of other games from the little bit of a guide towards some of the maps from 4v4s and that sort of thing. So we've already done Outpost and District 10. Today we are going to be looking at High Ground. Now this one is not actually one of my favorite maps in the 4v4 pool. Those of you who know me will know that I actually hate the majority of the maps in the 4v4 pool. So this is obviously not something too surprising, but this one obviously we'll have a look at some of the things that the features of this particular map. We'll have a look at just some of the things you can utilize on this map, and also of course you know, various strategies that do come up just in general in 4v4s. Now if you don't actually play too many 4v4s, if you do want, I do actually stream a lot of 4v4s that I play on justin.tv/DUCKVILLELOL, so make sure you jump on there and you can actually see when I'm playing some 4s and raging at people who are really bad and all that sort of thing. Even though I'm quite bad myself, but it's actually can be a lot of fun when you actually get into the good parts of a 4v4 game. Even the 3s and the 2s can be a lot of fun once you get past the initial stages, or if you can get past an initial cheese phase of a game, which is of course highly likely, as many people will know, in team games. But speaking of cheese, we actually do have a pretty quick pull here from Smony, or we'll get to the teams in just a second, but looks as if he is in fact may not even be sure of exactly what he's doing. He's sending a drone out here, so got a quick pull and then actually gets a quick hatchery, so perhaps just either being very clever and wanting to defend against any early cheese himself, but obviously that's a bit of an interesting play. Now the teams we'll go over, of course, we have myself here in the very luscious and lovely pink. Go away, Pete, I'm trying to cast a game. And of course, so I'm here up in the top left-hand side as a Terran. We've got one of our teammates here is Leechy, the orange Terran over here. And over here we have a yellow Protoss Nicole, and Starstruck finishing out our 4's team is the green Terran down here. Now, on the opposing team, we actually have almost a copy of the actual races there. We've got Sky here as the purple Protoss. We have Dr. HST as the blue Terran. We have our interesting build guy Smony here as the teal Zerg, and then finishing off their team is Love Machine, the red Protoss. So this is going to be a, as we said, it's going to be, it is a bit of a longer game, so I may actually sort of speed through some bits, some occasional bits when it gets a bit boring. For instance, these initial parts are a bit boring, but what we'll do while we're sort of waiting for things to actually start happening is have a look at some of the features of this map. Now, one of the main features, if you've seen some of the other 2 guides that I've done, and obviously some of the other ones that will be coming up soon, you'll know that there are certain features that actually distinguish some of the 4's maps. Now, this one has these a gold here in the middle, and then a second one sort of obviously very symmetrical on the other side. Now these actually become hotly contested in the sort of mid to end game part, where you actually really need to control those. There are 2 other golds, there's one up the top and one down the bottom over here. But those generally will get mined out by the team on that side. So obviously up the top we have my team across here, and then the other half of the team is over here. Now obviously if you're aware of how team games work, you can obviously get a lot of people will bring essentially their whole team and attack one particular side. So if you have one person by themselves on such terrible maps as Toxic Slums, they will be in a lot of trouble because it's a long way to actually get over and sort of help out your teammates. Now in this map, as we can see here from down here on Team 2, you've got 2 players that are actually connected here in the one base. They have one ramp to share. There's a lot of base space, as we can see here. It is only 1 cliff level, so do keep that in mind. Of course, that means Colossus and Reapers can jump up the cliffs and take advantage of their particular features that they do have. And of course it means that things such as drops can be quite useful as well. So I've actually had warp prisms and medevacs do quite nicely on this particular map. Now, as we can see here, I've actually put down a couple of racks. We got 2 tech labs. We even have the Reaper speed on the way, because it was going to be a day for Reapers, I decided. Leechy here is going to go for a relatively quick expansion. He's only got the 2 racks up at the moment with a factory on the way. Over here for Nicole, we got 3 gateways, a robo, very standard sort of build for 4s, and over here we've got another sort of standard play from Starstruck. Now, it is very common to see lots of very low tier units, such as obviously gateway units, you've got your racks units, and of course you've got roaches and lings generally will be a high sort of usage unit from pretty much all of team games. So do keep that in mind. Of course, it's quite sort of, I wouldn't say rare, it's just, it's definitely something that doesn't happen often, is to see the higher tech units, because as I mentioned before, you'll have one team that will just come straight after a particular person on the other team with tier 1 gateway or sort of gateway units, as I mentioned, and then actually just destroy that person, and then your opposing team will be in a lot of trouble. Back to what I was talking about. One of the, of course, pretty much feature number 2 of this map is the fact that you do have 2 players connected to each other with 1 ramp to share. That means, of course, it does make it easier for them to actually defend things. One problem with this map, though, as we'll see, is there is a long pathway to get across to your teammates. Of course, for us to actually get across to defend each other, I think the run time is around about 20 to 30 seconds. And as you can see here, Nicole getting a little bit of trouble. Sky up on the top of the gold expansion with that. This is just, of course, another level, sort of 1 level cliff position there. Sky taking advantage of that, taking out some of Nicole's sentries. But we do see that these guys have started to meet up together. Meanwhile, with my own units, I actually grabbed some Reapers, went in and attacked down here. Reapers are absolutely fantastic on this map. Of course, you do have a lot of players will say, you never see cool stuff in 4s, or it's all cheese, or all blah blah blah. It's all ranting crap. What you do is some fun stuff in 4s, and as we could see, I was actually going for the mass Reapers. In fact, where have I put them? Over here. Well, it's not mass at the moment, but we're getting there. But as we can see here, Smooney with his incredibly weird strat has got out a lot of lings. He's done his expansion, and he is pushing up with some lings, trying to take advantage of the fact that he did get the early expansion there. Meanwhile, Nicole and Starstruck just jumping down here. They're going to run into a lot of trouble. 6 tanks have beefed up this defense here for Team 2 down in the bottom right corner, along with some extra stalkers warping in here. Will be quite adequately defended. So this position was obviously a decent place to attack, but the problem, of course, is that with a lot of tanks there and a lot of sort of stalkers and other units that can warp in, you can run into a little bit of trouble. Now, this is what I mentioned about the Reapers. With using a lot of Reapers on this map, is that you can use the advantage of using that cliff jump. What is it called? Jetpack. There you go. It's like Duke Nukem. By the way, I'm really upset with how the new Duke Nukem played. Anyway. Using the jetpack, you can run around the map. You can run through this little bit here. There is this little low ground, which some people forget about. If you spawn on this side of the map and you want to run vertically down, you think, oh no, there's some rocks in the way, I can't get through here. Just actually take this path here and just jump straight down. You can jump across into the natural expansions. Of course, these guys are quite well defended here as well, with a lot of stalkers out to protect against those Reapers. But it is very easy to get them across, and of course you can do the same thing with Nidus Worms drops. You can come across this sort of angle here. We'll get rid of the production tab. You can come through this this little cavernous area here off to the left and drop through the side here. But as we can see here, a good thing to note, what Love Machine has done is to put some, even if it's just a pylon, a supply depot, or a random overlord, get something off to the side of the base. So obviously for Love Machine's position, put it up here in this vertical position, just up to the left. For Smooney, you can put them over here. Of course, generally, I'm pretty sure this map actually splits horizontally, so you don't actually need to put anything across here. And then, of course, over here for Sky, you can actually put a pylon over here, or perhaps over here, anywhere there, to make sure it's defended. Meanwhile, we do see that Smooney's got his speed on these lings. There's certainly a lot of lings to deal with. There are some Marines here for myself, just running in, skimming up and defending here. A little bit of micro, I'm pretending to be Marine King Prime, but it's not working, as you can see. But there you go, those lings have pretty much died off there. And as we can see, Another attack is coming in here from Love Machine. He's decided to join the party. A DT was in there as well, gets hacked away. These Stalkers are now doing a lot of work here on these buildings here, trying to evacuate that command center. And we do see that Leech comes in with a lot of Marines to save the day. Now he's able obviously to help out here, make sure that's defended. Now obviously, as I mentioned, that's the power of these this particular map where you actually have your bases linked up. Now as we'll see in one of the other guides, if you go and have a look at the guide for Toxic Slums, that map you cannot actually really help your teammates that well. Oh, hello, look at all those tanks. I didn't actually see this when I was playing, but there's a lot of, obviously, there's a lot of potential to help out with your team if you can in this sort of map. But it is limited, of course, because there is that long distance to get all the way across, as we just saw here from Starstruck with all of his Marauders just rolling their way across the field. He's taking a long time to actually get them back to defend. If he actually had a lot of trouble coming up through this passageway, he would have nothing to defend, and he'd have to rely on Nicole to actually help out there. Now, another thing that we did have a quick look at before was the destructible rocks that cover a separate path, a sort of a backdoor path through the side of the map. Obviously, you've got one here and then one across to the side. Once again, Love Machine on the ball. I was actually not on the ball. I didn't actually put anything over here. But Love Machine has a pylon here, just checking out the rocks. You don't actually have to keep an eye on what's on the other side of the rocks, but it is always good to see what is coming and see if those rocks go down. As you can see with that pylon, you can actually see that Leechy is hacking away at that. Now, I'm not actually sure if these guys were prepared. Yes, they are. There's some DTs that have walked in. They're going to be well prepared for this incoming attack here. And we're going to use some more of these stims here on the Marines. They're going to be able to shoot away at what is here. Leechy putting down a stim. I had a couple of my own Marines in the mix there, but not too many. Leechy's doing all the work here, because at the top we actually had a big attack from some Lings and Stalkers here from Sky and Smyrny. He's come across a couple of Colossus on the top of the ridge there. You trying to utilize the jetpack there, of course, from those Reapers. Not doing enough, but as we can see here, we did actually have a very decent attack from Leechy coming into Love Machine's base, smashing down this natural expansion. Don't know where the income is at for Love Machine. Let's have a quick look. What is he? The Red Protoss. He's on 35 probes, so he's still doing alright. Meanwhile, we'll just have a quick look. Got up to around about 6 or 7 racks, I think, trying to pump out those Reapers. Got weapons on the way or done, something like that. But this is the problem with what we have here. With a lot of tanks and a lot of, obviously, the Stalkers, if you can bring them along, you can actually really split this map quite hard, and it's a real problem to get into the mid-game for the team that's suffering the split, because you're unable to get to these gold expansions. As we can see here, Nicole trying to push in here to the gold to try and make sure that's covered. Meanwhile, some Reapers running into a little bit of trouble here. Some siege tanks not letting them get anywhere, and now this expansion is under threat. Because those siege tanks, there is a whole heap of them. Putting down a scan to check out what's happening with them. We do see Nicole coming across with some Stalker Colossus ball, and the Colossus on move command getting sniped down by the tanks. Do keep in mind the siege tanks actually have more range than a Colossus, but when they're unsieged they don't. But Starstruck comes in, saves the day with his big Marauder pack. Meanwhile, back here in the main, I think we did actually have a drop from Leechy getting inside, taking out a lot of this base from Love Machine. So Love Machine is actually now in a lot of trouble. But as we mentioned there, using the cliffs and using the, especially one thing which I've noticed can happen, in fact Sky is having this trouble right now, is that if you actually do a very heavy wall on your base, you can actually have a lot of trouble trying to get in and out. Now, that's one thing which you can utilize, of course. You can try and sort of make sure you do drops out the front at the natural and then pull them right back into the main, as we did see. We didn't actually see it, but as Leechy did there, where you actually attack the nat, sort of do some damage here, and then attack into the main as well, and then the units have to come all the way back through this ramp here to get back inside. So that is one thing to keep in mind if you are having a bit of trouble with attacking. Give that a shot and see if that works. Meanwhile, Smyrny's sitting on, he's still on his 2 base, and he's just producing Lings. For any Zerg players who haven't played 4s and want to try and get into it, that is actually one thing you can do, which you may think, oh, he's only building Lings, that's not going to be very useful at all. Early game, if you have a Zerg player in your team building a lot of Lings, that is actually incredibly useful. It's It's one thing, of course, in a 1v1 game to have some speedlings out and be controlling the map, but in a 4v4 game, if you have a Zerg who is like very good with the link control, you can actually control the map for a lot of the game. In fact, it's quite actually surprising to see what can happen. Meanwhile, check out those Reapers on the way. It's obviously not a huge amount, but there's a lot coming through here. They do have their +1 to weapons and armor as well, so they're going to be doing a lot of damage. Meanwhile, speaking of those lings, all those lings from Simone coming across here, DTs and Zealots are going to have their way with them. But now, as we can see here, the attack coming in with those Reapers, just utilizing their speed, utilizing their very, very high burst DPS here, jumping up on top of the cliff, trying to take out some of those units from the cliff. And now, as we can see, if you can get through the back here with Reapers, these guys are really quite useful on this map. Running through here, taking out cannons, giving the cannons that don't argue, and destroying pylons while running through. Noticing the fusion core, of course, in a 4v4, if you can try and take out your opponent's tech, they will be quite far behind, even more so than in one sometimes, because it can be hard to get bases, because a lot of these maps actually have very restricted expansions. As you can see here, one of the big things about this map is that you get your natural expansion, and then what are you going to do from there? You can take the gold, you can take that gold, but then after that, what are you going to do? Because only one of you can actually take that gold expansion. Now, of course, it really depends on who you have on your team, whether you want a Zerg to get that, whether you want a Protoss to get that, or whether you want a Terran to get that. It can be very dependent on your actual makeup. So I think we'll have to go into that another time. But it's very dependent on how good the players are as well. Like if you had a very low quality player, you obviously wouldn't really want them to get the gold, because you'd have a lot of trouble actually making sure that the gold expansion was being utilized properly. But obviously it's very dependent, as I mentioned. Now, as we can see here, just speaking of expansions, now that our sort of personal gold over here, I think that's a little bit out of position, has been taken by Leechy. I actually have no way to expand, so I'm actually going to look to try and get over here to this gold if you can secure it. But meanwhile, just up the top here, we obviously have a huge attack here from Team 2 into Team 1. In fact, that is only Sky, who has a few Colossus and a lot of Stalkers, utilizing their cliff walk ability to jump up on top of the cliff. However, the problem he's going to have is the Starstruck has a lot of Vikings out, well prepared for the Colossus threat. Marauders on the ground, meanwhile, doing great damage, of course, to these Stalkers. The Stalkers only have +1 to their weapons. They do have +3 to armor, but that is not going to be very good for them at all. But meanwhile, Dr. HST has come through the middle of the map. You will see he does have one battle cruiser out. I think he got another one somewhere. Was there another one in production? No, there wasn't. But he's actually come through, done a very, very Brood War-esque style push into the middle here, putting down supply depots, putting down turrets, and holding this middle position. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is a perfect example of trying to hold this middle base. Now, what I wouldn't have done as Dr. HST would be to push in here. There really is no point actually trying to push. If you're a Terran, you control the gold on your side. There's really no point in pushing in through the middle, because whilst you may do a little bit of damage, you actually will lose a bit of the security here in the middle of the map. And now, without that security, this Zerg expansion is going to be in trouble if anyone decides to get in there, of course, and this gold could be in a bit of trouble as well. But as you can see here, we do have this attack coming in here from Dr. HST, but looks as if the Reapers have actually spotted that the tanks have unsieged. Reapers going in, not actually doing too much damage against the tanks, but a lot of the tanks are now dead. Nicole coming in with a hero DT to try and take out that. But as we can see here, without that wall of tanks to actually defend the middle, Sky is going to lose this base. Now, Dr. HST jumps out of the game quite early there, but you would actually submit that could have been his own fault that they lost this game, because of course without that security, as I mentioned, that puts these two middle bases in jeopardy, and then you're in a lot of trouble if you don't have those bases. Now I'm just speeding it up a bit here, because essentially, as many of you guys can see, this is pretty much over. Marines, Reapers, Marauders, Medevacs, Zealots all coming through the middle of the map. Meanwhile, Leechy did a drop down here in the main of Dr. HST, even though he's dead. Some Thors did come out. That is one big powerful part of Thors, is if you can, if you're a Terran who can hold on to your bases and get a lot of production up, you can start slamming out Thors, and Thors just become absolutely ridiculous to deal with unless you have a very good Protoss who gets out some Templar. But as we can see here, just cleaning up the rest of this. Thor's doing their best to try and take out the Marine Marauder combo, doing a decent job given the tanks are in the background here, but there is certainly not enough to hold off this attack here. In fact, I'm not even sure who was left in this game. I think it was Sky who was still in the game trying to fend off this attack with very skillful Marine ball here from myself. We got Reapers all over the map, we got more Marines pouring in, and as you can see here, just taking the various bases to make sure that we are staying on top of things, even though it'd be pretty hard to lose from this position. But that's high ground essentially. It's as I said, one of the key components to this map is holding the middle base if you can. If you have a Terran, get the guy to get some siege tanks and siege up that middle base and just start holding on. And if you can hold it, you can secure the golds and also just be in a fantastic position. Actually, one quick thing I will mention, that the golds are actually in siege range from here. You can hit these 3 patches, of course the assimilator as well. From here, I believe you can hit a couple of these patches as well, and of course it is the opposite on the other side as well. You can hit from here into the gold as well. Now you can drop in these little low ground things as well, which of course will definitely help with the range for the siege tanks, but that is one thing to keep in mind if you are playing on this one against the Terran. Be very, very careful if you take those gold expansions. Just look out for tanks coming from the sides like raptors in Jurassic Park, and because that can be a lot of trouble to deal with, in fact, because you'll have a couple of options. Unless you have some very good anti-tank skills with you, you actually have to either go around the long way and try and deal with the tanks, try and get up here to get to this position, or you'll have to do some sort of drops on them. So just be very careful of that when you are playing on this map. And now, as we can see, this is pretty much over. In fact, it was Sky, I believe, who was still in it. Love Machine has still got 1 cannon over here, which is valiantly holding up the game for the rest of us. But that is going to go down quick sticks in just a moment, and there you go. So that was obviously high ground. It is it's not the best of the 4v4 maps. In fact, in my own opinion, I really think the District 10, maybe Megaton, are the best of the 4v4 maps, but we'll get to Megaton another time. So I hope you enjoyed that little guide. If you do enjoy this particular little mini-series that I'm doing, make sure you let me know, and if possible, I might try and do some of the other maps from 2s and 3s if I can get around to it. Cheers.